Hello and welcome to ALL32. My name is Arabia, and here we talk all things football. It is Friday, and if you haven't seen a Friday show, it's Casual Friday. So we let our hair down, at least I do, metaphorically, and we're wearing jeans, we're comfortable. It's not the same structure as our Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday show. So today we're talking about Thursday night football game last night, which was crazy. Coach George, did you see that game?
Crazy. It was crazy.
Insane. We're also going to talk about week 16 predictions so that next week we can hold ourselves accountable and see which wins and losses we got right and wrong. And we're also going to talk about the American Youth Football Championship Tournament that happened in Naples, Florida. I haven't done an official recap, but we're talking the good, we're talking the bad, we're talking the ugly. We are highlighting some amazing things that came from the AYF tournament, and we're also calling out some individuals who need to be spotlighted for their negative behavior. So we're going to just go through all of the AYF things, but that's a lineup for today's show. And I think this is my first guest I've ever had on a Casual Friday. So in honor of Coach George, let's pay some bills. Fanatics has up to 60% off. It's the holidays. Christmas is in 6 days. Time is flying. Oh my goodness. Use code ELF, ELF, for up to 60% off. Use the Coach George link in the description box below for up to 60% off Fanatics using code ELF. All right. So support Coach George. Use the Coach George link, and he's also going to be promoting it on his own. But get yourself some gear, blankets, pajamas, slippers. I'm sure they have all kinds of accessories, and it could still be here in time for Christmas. All right. Get those Christmas gifts out of the store and underneath your tree using code ELF for up to 60% off. And I think this sale, ELF specific, lasts up until midnight on December 21st. So take advantage while you can. Coach George, how you feel? How are you?
You know what? You know me, Arabia. I'm better than I deserve. I can't believe that I'm actually here with you on a Friday. You allowed me in,
Oh.
gave me a code. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, the gifts, Christmas gifts start early, boy.
The pleasure is really mine. The gift that keeps on giving is you. You give to me, I give to you. You give to me, I give to you. That's just how we do around here. So let's start off talking about Thursday night football. The Seahawks defeated the Rams in an overtime classic game, 38-37 last night. The game was everything that I wanted it to be. I was looking forward to this Thursday night football game since last week when I remembered that was what the lineup was going to be. They're fighting not just for the NFC West, they're also fighting for a number one spot in the NFC. And it was just an absolute amazing game. I am going to speak more about this game next week during our structured show so I can break down everything that I want to break down, but I had to just touch on it. I'll be remiss if I didn't. One thing that I noticed, first of all, the record for the amount of 2-point conversions in a game actually belongs to the 2000 Rams. They had 4 in the game, but Seattle had 3. Now, sometimes that can be very demoralizing for a defense when you've got an offense who is making their way into cutting into a 16-point deficit. And then on top of that, they're fighting the end zone and then getting 2-point conversion after 2-point conversion and then an overtime 2-point conversion. The thing that stood out to me the most in this game was momentum, Coach George. And it seems like Rashid Shaheed, when he scored a touchdown from that punt return, the momentum just swung, the pendulum swung in favor of Seattle. And that 12th man got involved. Offense started clicking. Defense started clicking. Special teams was clicking. Coaching was just artful. But what did you notice from this game, and what are your takeaways from that Thursday night football game?
Yeah, I just want to pick up where you left off, which is the punt return. Like once something happens on special teams like that, 9 times out of 10, the momentum is definitely going to shift. The other thing I wanted to point out is what most people don't understand is you say, well, it's a 2-point conversion. How can they get it? As a defense, you don't necessarily know what to prepare for in a 2-point conversion. So it's a brand new play for the most part. It's either a brand new play or it's a play where you haven't practiced against it. And if you notice, a lot of times when teams go for 2 points, they'll allow them to line up. Well, not call a timeout, but they'll try to take time to be able to see what kind of sets they're in, so they know what to do or what they normally do from those specific sets. But that's why they're successful as they are, is because if you haven't practiced and were playing for them, you're just out there reacting to what you see on the field. We saw that last night.
Speaking of 2-point conversions, we have to talk about that crazy 2-point conversion after Rashid Shaheed's touchdown. So Zach Charbonnet casually picks up the ball, in my opinion, just to really hand it to the ref and go on to the next play sort of thing. It, to me, didn't look like an intentional finishing of the play just in case, just play it through type of thing. It just seems like ball trickled into the end zone. He goes over, he picks it up just to kind of go on to the next play. But 2-point conversion. Sam Darnold makes a backwards pass. It bounces off of Jared Verse's helmet. Cam Curl tries to recover it. Is unable to do so. Ball trickles into the end zone. Now, we all heard the whistle. I've seen rule analysts say, yes, the whistle typically signals the end of a play, but in this case, the whistle just does not matter. Coach George, what's your take on something like that when the whistle is blown and then reviewing a play and it's standing as a 2-point conversion?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is 10 times out of 10 the whistle blows, that means the play is over. So as a player, I'm trained to hear the whistle. When I hear the whistle, all of a sudden I'm thinking about the next play. So that was very confusing to me. I think the league is going to have to do a better job of not making that rule so ambiguous. Like, it's either when the whistle blows, the play is over, or it's not, because I can understand exactly why things went the way they went last night with the whistle blowing.
I do too. And like you said, when that whistle is blown, you shovel whatever just happened and you move on to the next play. So as a player, it had to be, especially as a Rams player, like a
Right.
defensive player, when you heard the whistle, now you're stopped defending. You're moving on to figure out, all right, what are we doing next? So the league definitely has to do something about that and just be clear about the rules, because if the play is over, sometimes you do see, like, when the whistle is blown, a player might pick up the ball depending on how far the end zone is, and they'll run to the end zone just in case. Like, you see that kind of in a lot of games. But these just in case plays have to be clear. If they did take it to the end zone, but the whistle was blown, would that still be a touchdown? So I'm going to look for the NFL to review that and maybe come out over the next few days, hopefully, to be clear about what the whistle signals and what that means as far as replay value and how players should conduct themselves during the game when they hear a whistle.
Trust me, Vegas is going to definitely make sure that they revisit that and,
Yeah.
and come up with a very decisive answer on whether it means when the whistle blows the play is over or not. Because I can pretty much guarantee you. Here's the thing about football, and it is what it is now, right? No pun intended. But the thing about it is that now that everything is tied into legal betting, like, that brings a whole lot more eyes and ears into exactly what happens from a structural standpoint in these close football games, especially. So trust me, this will definitely be figured out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and again, I'll have a more structured show, but I did just want to say the people that I was mentioning during the game, especially when the Seahawks were down, when they were down 16, I'm thinking, like, okay, well, they made a mid-season trade with the Saints for Rashid Shaheed, but I feel like I haven't really seen him be as impactful to the game as I thought that he would be. Good player. I thought he was going to come over to Seattle and really be a 1-2 punch with JSN. And I had also mentioned Cooper Kupp. I'm like, Cooper Kupp, I haven't really seen be as productive over the last couple years. And with those three, I think with Cooper Kupp, JSN, and Rashid Shaheed, those three at their best, playing at their highest levels, can really compete with some of the best in the league as far as wide receiver rooms. With the Bucks, with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka. Even with the Rams, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and Tutu Atwell. Those trios of wide receivers can be some of the best in the NFL. And as soon as I kind of said that about Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed, they started making plays. Rashid Shaheed began on special teams, and then we saw him help the offense drive downfield, and then Cooper Kupp showed up. Sam Darnold put his team in some unfortunate predicaments early on in the game, but then he also put them in some favorable ones. So it's kind of the roller coaster that is Sam Darnold, especially in these big moments. But amazing game. And I also do have to mention Kobe Turner. You know I love shouting out the big guys, especially defensive tackles who sometimes can get tucked in there and go unnoticed sometimes. But Kobe Turner balled out. Had a game. 91 was all over the place. And so we're going to definitely show him some love. But great game, classic game. If you didn't have a chance to see it, somehow if you have NFL Plus, like, definitely go back and watch the game. It was really amazing.
Yeah, it was an old school, high scoring game. I love high scoring games. I mean, especially having been an offensive player myself. Not that I don't appreciate defense, because I definitely do, but I love to see that back and forth. And here's the last thing I'll say about any game. First of all, it's any given Sunday, but it's obviously any given Thursday too. And the biggest deal is, man, you got to play until the last whistle is blown, because, man, you got talented people on both sides of the worst person on the NFL roster is better than everybody in your hometown, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta think about that. You got guys out there that are professionals, and they're gonna continue to play until it's completely over.
Definitely will. So, with this win, Seattle's number one in the NFC right now. The Rams are in a wild card spot. Two
Yeah.
more games left for these teams. So, we're going to see what happens for the rest of the season. Speaking of the rest of the season, let's move on to week 16 predictions. There are a couple Saturday games, one of them being Eagles Commanders tomorrow, Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Coach George, who do you have in this Eagles Commanders game?
Well, I'm gonna get right to it. Y'all gonna lose. So with that, but you gotta look at who's playing for what, right? Philly is obviously playing for a better playoff spot. You guys are struggling with injuries. At this point of the season, here's the thing: is like the thing I've loved about how much parity has helped the NFL is that late in the season there are a lot of games that mean something between both teams. Unfortunately, that's not the case between the Commanders and the Eagles, but it's still the Commanders and the Eagles, right? So with that being said, that pride piece is always going to take the forefront. But I think Philly is starting to find their stride, and they're at this point they understand what they have to do. They have to be undeniable going down the stretch. So I'm obviously going to take the Eagles in this game over the Commanders.
Yeah, nothing about the Commanders season inspires confidence for me to think that they're going to go in here and beat the Eagles. Outside of division game, anything could happen any given Saturday in this case. Like that
But
sort
but
of
hold
narrative
on,
thing.
but hold on, Arabia. Exactly what you just mentioned is the reason why people are going to show up and watch the game. It's a
Yeah.
division game, a bad rivalry, all these years. Again, like I said, you got talented professional football players on both sides of football. I don't expect the Commanders to go in there and lay down by any stretch of the imagination. They're
Yeah.
still pros with pride. But with
Yeah.
that being said, I think the Eagles just got a little bit too much more in the tank, both offensively and defensively, where they'll be able to pull the game out.
I completely agree. I mean, this game for me goes to Philly. It's in Maryland, and the Commanders are going to be on a short week because they play 5 days later on Christmas. But I got to give it to Philly. They're playing for not just a spot in a really tight NFC conference, but they're trying to make sure that the Cowboys don't come from behind and win the NFC. So I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think with the Eagles win on Saturday, they clinched the NFC East. So in that regard, getting themselves a spot in the playoffs. So they're playing for a lot more. Like you said, they have a lot more in the tank offensively, defensively, and I got to give it to the Eagles. Next, we have Packers Bears. Another thing that I like that happens more in the NFL these days is these division games to end the season. Like the Commanders had Giants, Eagles,
Yep.
Cowboys, Eagles to end the game. Last four
Yep.
games of the season. Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. And that's happening all around the league. So we see a lot of these division games really determining playoff berths and division standings and all those things. So speaking of that, Packers Bears, two teams who seem to be flip-flopping a lot in their division. And at one point, the Bears were number one in the NFC, and we see them kind of slip down because of that division in the conference. But Packers Bears is in Chicago. I keep saying that the Bears aren't a good team, but they keep stacking wins. So at some point, I just got to bite the bullet and be like, if they're finding ways to win, I got to give them credit in that regard. And I haven't been super and duper impressed with the Packers wins. It's on a Saturday night football game at 8:20 p.m. I'm going to have to go Bears here, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers show that they are a pedigree of team that's able to play better in December rolling into the postseason than a more inexperienced Bears team.
So here's the interesting thing, right? You hit it right on the head. Like, I just don't know why the Bears are as good as they are. Like, that's the crazy thing is like normally when a team has that type of record during this time of season, you usually can say it's because of this that they are that good. But when I watch them, they looked as nondescript as a white piece of paper, but they end up at the end of the game with a W. So
Yeah.
with that being said, it's really hard to go against them. Talking about the
Yeah.
Packers, really tough injury not having Micah Parsons going forward.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he actually came in there and did what a free agent is supposed to do when they change teams. And, not having him on defense is going to be huge. But even with that being said, I still think the Packers, it being a Packers-Bears game, again, like we said, They just played like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, like 2 weeks ago before. So they know each other, and because they know each other, the game can go either way. But with that being said, it's really hard for me to choose against the Bears. I can't believe I'm saying this.
I
Because
know.
honestly, from an analyst standpoint, I'm still trying to figure out why they're as good as they are.
I think I'll give you an overarching theme as to why each team might win this game. For the Bears, I think we got to point at Ben Johnson. Is Ben Johnson the real deal? He leaves the Lions, and we see the Lions struggle offensively. We see Dan Campbell calling plays. I just don't think they've been the same since Ben Johnson's departure. And then Ben Johnson goes to Chicago and has the offense putting up enough points, and I didn't know what he would be as far as a leader of men, because you could be a great coordinator but not a
Sure.
great coach, because there's different roles and responsibilities in being a head coach. So I was like, well, I don't know how he's going to be in the locker room and just lead a leader of men. And I see him being that. He seems to inspire his guys. They like him. We see him getting very passionate and fired up. They seem to really follow him. So maybe Ben Johnson is the weapon X so far, and we have to just keep an eye on Ben Johnson to see, is he the real deal? So maybe Ben Johnson will be the key to this game, and just really having his guys prepared and ready to go and fired up for 4 quarters, possibly more if it goes to overtime of football. For the Packers, again, you talk about a more experienced team as far as having made the playoffs and gotten a playoff win or two in recent years. And not only do they have significant injuries at a really bad time, Coach George, you don't want your injuries to come week 16. I mean, my goodness, rolling into the postseason, you'd rather be healthier now than you are taking significant injuries. And Micah Parsons is a significant injury, but not just him. Zach Tom went down, and it really started with him in that Packers-Broncos game. Christian Watson went down. Safety Evan Williams went down. So we have a few people that are impacted. And like I said before, I think the Packers took 2 losses in that Broncos game, not just to the Broncos, but took a loss to injury rolling into the postseason. So injury, I think, would be what would be stopping the Packers from being able to compete at the highest level that they can, which is the reason why I just got to go Bears and say that Ben Johnson might be the weapon next year.
The interesting thing is, like, hearing you say that, like, I totally forgot Ben Johnson was over there. But here's the deal. You know, you got to look at his success rate, right, and how he basically goes about things. Me being a coach myself, a lot of times I've had teams where we might not have had a superstar or superstars, but because of that, we were able to rally the guys in a way to make them understand, listen, if we're going to win, it is going to be all of us doing our job at critical times during the games. And you are seeing the Bears do that. You are seeing them do that. They seem to make the plays they have to make so much more than whomever they're playing, because they never really break completely away from the teams they're playing. But when it comes down to crunch time, they're making the significant plays where the other teams aren't. That's a credit to their coaching staff.
Absolutely a credit to the coaching staff. I'm excited to see what Ben Johnson does with this team moving forward. And again, just have the question in the back of my mind, is he the real deal? Caleb Williams has been inconsistent. I mean, this whole team has been inconsistent, so maybe he's the glue that's keeping everything together. I got to go Bears. Are you also going Bears? Is that
I'm going Bears.
clear?
I'm going Bears.
Okay. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's move on to Chargers Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are fighting to make their way into the playoffs this year. What they'll do if they get there, everybody already knows. But and the Chargers right now are, not they're so the Chargers are another inconsistent team. And I had the Chargers winning the AFC West in the offseason. Obviously not at all the case. The Chiefs are eliminated. The Broncos sit at the top of that division. The Chargers right now are the number 5 spot. And they're trying to just keep their playoff berth alive. I got to give this one to the Chargers, not because I'm a Cowboys hater, but because
you are.
and I am. To be clear, I'm not choosing the Chargers because I'm a Cowboys hater, which I am. I'm choosing the Chargers because I believe that the Cowboys have been inconsistent more than the Chargers have been. And I can see the Chargers dominating them even at home in Dallas. What do you think?
Look, first of all, let me stretch real quick. Just in case. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, while I was stretching, that is a Super Bowl trophy with the Dallas Cowboys. But let me finish stretching real quick. Hold on,
Oh my God.
let me stretch.
You did
Let
not
me
just flex your
let me
Super Bowl
stretch.
trophy with
Let
the
me stretch
Cowboys.
real quick.
Oh my God.
Okay, all right. I'm back. I'm back
That
now.
was
I'm back.
cold. That
I'm
was
back.
cold. I'm
Hey,
sorry. That
look,
was
look at me. Hey,
cold.
look. Turn the
Wow,
heat
that was
on in the
cold.
house. Turn the heat on in your house. Okay? Stop trying to cover up under cover. Turn the heat on in your house. Hold on, one more stretch and I'm good. Okay. Now back to your question. You said something that I resonate with, which is who's going to be the least inconsistent in this football game?
Yeah.
And if I'm speaking unbiasedly, I never know what my Cowboys are going to look like defensively from the first quarter to the last quarter. That being said, it's the reason why our record is what it is. Even after we acquired, some defensive players and Williams and I can't think of the linebacker that we actually got. But the thing about it is they still don't have enough on defense to do the necessary thing in critical downs. I see that week in and week out. You go to our offense, as prolific as we should be, unfortunately, the thing that's holding us back is consistent O-line play, right? I'm watching Dak having to do a lot more with his feet than he needs to be doing. And particularly, I don't necessarily believe it's our interior three. I look at our tackles and see where we can have, so we need some improvement there. Now, that being said, left tackle has been a roller coaster, for the Cowboys over this year. Not having that significant piece as a stalwart, that actually shows up as a negative on your offensive side. These are the things that cause you to be inconsistent when you have lineup changes, when you have personnel discrepancies, things of that nature. That being said, you look at the Chargers again, right? They've had some personnel issues too, particularly on their offensive line. So with that, it's really hard to build any type of continuity. That's why their records are what they are. I would love to give it to us because of home field advantage, but I cannot. I don't think that ever plays into a factor with us, is having home field advantage. But I'm still going with my Cowboys, though. I don't care what you say, Arabia, you and your cover. I'm still going with our Cowboys. I believe we're going to pull it out. I do feel like we have more uh, offensive firepower than they do. So with that being said, I'm going to lean more towards them. And it's time for Turpin to make a big play on special teams. So I'll look for him to do that as well. I'm going Cowboys.
Cowboys absolutely do have more firepower on offense. And again, like you said, it's just the defense that makes me nervous because I think Justin Herbert, his potential, he has a high ceiling. And this Chargers offense could potentially also give Dallas's defense a run for their money. So we just got to see how both teams show up. But so we both had the Eagles. We both had the Bears. This is our first game that we disagree. You have the Cowboys.
Come
And
on.
I
You choosing the
have the
Chargers?
Chargers. I'm
You going
choosing the
okay,
Chargers.
you're just going
Yes.
Chargers because, right?
No, absolutely not. I'm going Chargers because I believe in them more. Yes. Let's do Vikings Giants. So, Vikings Giants, two teams that have struggled a lot this season, two young quarterbacks with a lot of vibrato, a lot of confidence. I got to go Vikings here. I think there's a lot of moving parts in New York between the interim head coach and an interim defensive coordinator and a young quarterback who has highs and lows and injuries and just inconsistencies on defense, which I think I expected more out of this defense this season. And the Vikings, I could sort of say the same, but I think I've seen more out of the Vikings offensively and defensively this season, even when they struggle, to where they can pull out a win against the Giants. So I'm going to go Vikings, but what do you think?
So we're going to agree. I'm going Vikings, and I'm going Vikings because of the quarterback situation. JJ McCarthy is starting to prove that he's the type of quarterback that can come in and be a good player. And you're starting to see that with him, barring the injuries that he's had this year. I think the thing that most people are starting to figure out, well, mainly that Minnesota is starting to figure out, is that the kid's a player. He took me to a national championship in high school. So with that being said, I'm starting to see him really take over and understand the offense and lead on offense. So I look at that compared to what the Giants don't have. They have a roller coaster at the quarterback position. And again, I just think you're looking at two teams, one spiraling up, one spiraling the wrong way. I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings because I think their upside is a whole lot better.
Both teams eliminated from the playoffs. So how does that affect a team, your mentality, players going into the rest of the season when you're not necessarily fighting for anything, but maybe at this point draft position right now? If the season were to end, the Giants have the number one spot in the 2026 draft for the first time since I think 1965. And so they're not looking for a quarterback. I anticipate if they do keep that number one spot that they will trade down for more picks and get something else. But what does that do for a player, even for coaches? What does that do when you know you're eliminated? You're just trying to keep guys healthy. And what's the mentality for both of these teams coming into this game? Are you thinking about the draft, or what's the mentality?
As a player, I'm not thinking about the draft at all on the front end of it. But what I am doing is understanding this is that this is a daily evaluation business.
Mm.
So because of that, regardless of what our record is, I'm being evaluated as a player. And if I have intentions on staying on this team, staying in the NFL, I need to make sure that my play continues to go the right way, continues to ascend. So I'm not thinking I'm tanking it in for the rest of the year because we're not going to the playoffs. I know this organization is going to be making some changes at the end of it. And if I want to be here, then I need to prove my worth of being able to stay here. Every professional that's worth their salt, that's exactly what they're thinking. I doubt if you have one player that's trying to tank it because they understand what it is. Every single year, you have over 1,900 players come in and 1,900 players go out. I don't want to be one of those 1,900 players. So with that being said, I'm playing for everything I got.
Yeah, that's a great point. First of all, Frankie Louvu came out after the Commanders beat the Giants and was like, respectfully, I don't care about draft order. Because, of course, a lot of fans are like, oh, it would be the Commanders that want to start winning after losing 8 in a row and losing for 2 months, start winning and messing up draft order. And Frankie Louvu was like, I don't care about the draft. I'm not thinking about that. And that's exactly what you want from your players. You don't want your players to have this defeatist draft outlook when they're playing in games. First of all, that's how you get hurt, because you're not playing to the best of your ability. You're just kind of out there lollygagging. And then you just don't want that mentality could be like a cancer in the locker room that really just affects everything. And you just don't want that. But also, in some understandable, but maybe some would say selfish ways, some players could also be playing for incentives, i.e. if they get this many rushing yards or this many touchdowns or whatever their contract says before the end of the season, they could be also playing for incentives. And then third, just like you said, they could be playing for a spot on the roster next season. This could be just more of their film, more tape for coaches to review as for their season in totality to make a case for them. If you know you're going to be a free agent in March and you know you might be shopping around to other teams or even trying to be on the same team, you could just be trying to solidify your tape to strengthen your argument as to why you should be on an NFL roster. So like you said, maybe not wins and losses at stake, but still a lot at stake for these players individually. And then for teams just kind of going into the game feeling confident and wanting to end the season on some sort of a high note, even though they're both eliminated. The next game is Bengals-Dolphins. Speaking of two teams that are eliminated from the playoffs, what do you think, first of all, about the Bengals' decision to keep Joe Burrow in for the rest of the season, given, as an example, the Commanders saying, Jaden Daniels, go have a seat? Two quarterbacks who are franchise quarterbacks who have dealt with significant injury this season, lost a lot of time, didn't play a lot of games, but Commanders are like, Jaden, have a seat. The Bengals are like, Joe Burrow, you got to go out there and play these last games, brother. So what do you think about that decision? And then we'll go into the preview.
You know, I think it's a difference in organizational philosophy, number one. That's the first thing you got to pay attention to. The other thing is, too, and this is no knock on Jaden, you're looking at the difference between him and Joe Burrow. This is probably also a Joe Burrow decision, too. Like, I'm playing, right? Regardless of what you say. This is me just guesstimating. Now, I think if Jaden had the opportunity to play, he probably would. But at the same time, they're probably saying, we can't lose our best asset on offense for games that don't necessarily count this year. They know he's their quarterback. Now, that's not to say that Cincinnati doesn't think that Joe Burrow is theirs. I just think it's a difference in philosophy between teams.
Yeah, I can completely see that. I hope that the Bengals, especially Joe Burrow, because he's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league right now. I've seen him, even when he did come back from injury, he might have to shake the rust off, the dust off. He had some inconsistent passes, some that were overthrown. It just seems like him and his receivers weren't always on the same page. Understandably, he hadn't played for a long time, but I hope he ends the season healthy, because when Jaden Daniels came in against the Vikings and we're just like, why is he playing? And then he lands on that same arm. It's just heartbreaking to see a really good player deal with injury. So whatever happens this game moving forward, hopefully he stays healthy. I gotta go Bengals only because Tua is benched. Quinn Ewers is in. I think his second game playing this season, but his first game starting. They choose Quinn Ewers over Zach Wilson because I think they just want to see what the rookie has to potentially evaluate the quarterback room moving forward, headed into the draft, headed into the offseason. I'm going to go Dolphins, but what do you think?
I'm gonna go
I'm sorry.
Cincinnati.
No, I'm going Bengals. I'm going
You want
Bengals,
Bengals?
not Bengals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree. I'm going Cincinnati. To me, I think when you make a quarterback change like that, and especially like you just said, they want to see what Ewers can do. It's not even necessarily can he win the football game. We need to see what he can do when the real bullets are flying. So again, my ideology if I'm a Bengals coach is so much different than what it might be if I'm a Dolphins coach. I'm in total evaluation mode of the most important piece of my football team, which is my quarterback.
Yeah.
So that with that being said, are they going to go out and try to win a game? Absolutely. But at the same time, I just don't think the Bengals give them that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, same. Moving right along is Bucks Panthers. The NFC South is such a weird division. Just in general, we've seen in recent years there be kind of like a weaker division, just with the Saints not being able to really find their footing, and before this season, the Panthers being one of those teams that just really, again, couldn't find their footing. But not the case this year, at least for Dave Canales and Bryce Young and the Panthers. And I also don't think we give the Panthers enough love defensively, because they've been able to make some really crucial stops on defense as well.
Yeah.
Bucks Panthers. Bucks are banged up. They're number 4 in the NFC right now. The Panthers are on the outside looking in, trying to make it. Man, this is really tough. And if you would have said Bucks Panthers in the offseason, I would have said Bucks no question. But I'm not sure what to think here. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say Panthers, because I've been going against the Panthers week after week and they've been proving me wrong, kind of like the Bears. But I'm going to say Panthers. But what do you think?
So this is a really interesting one, right? If you paid attention to, what Todd Bowles said in his interview after their last loss, he's challenged those guys like, listen, you guys just got to do your job. Losing a 14-point lead, deep in the fourth quarter, that's just not something that a contending team is supposed to do, but we watched them do that. So he appropriately went right out, challenged every person on that team publicly to listen, just do your job and we win the football games we're supposed to win. That being said, I'm going into that game as a player understanding that everything I do is on the line in terms of my evaluation because my head coach just called me out. So you have that factor into it. I'm going to tell you what's really interesting about the Carolina culture is that they have been counted out all year long, but they've won some games this year that I am more than positive most of us thought that they would lose and probably lose bad. But again, I said at the beginning of the show, you've got professional football players on a football team that seems to be rallying around each other based on the fact that no one expected them to win a football game, let alone the amount of games they won. So you have my pride is being challenged on one side with the Bucks. You have, listen, we are building a winning culture around here in Carolina. The factor is going to be whose stars can be stars in star moments. Yeah. I got to go with Tampa Bay because at the end of the day, I understand that we are a contending team. Yes, playing a divisional rival, but at the same time, my pride is on the line because my coach called me and my teammates out. So with that, I'm going with Tampa Bay over Carolina in this one.
It's my responsibility as a member of the media and to my audience, who I love and adore so much, and just as an honest human being, to let people know when there are certain biases that are
Oh,
occurring.
is that what we doing?
And
Is
and I
that
just
what
want
we doing?
everyone to know, well, just pointing out a fact. I want everyone to know that the three teams that Coach George played for are the Cowboys, the
Facts.
Eagles, and the
Facts.
Bucks.
Facts.
And he just so happened to pick all three of those teams in his predictions. So I just need everyone to take that into account
We
when
doing
we're
this?
doing these
Are we
predictions,
doing this?
and seeing where his predictions lie may actually be who he
Okay.
wants to win
Okay. We're
and not
doing
who he
this. I see.
thinks will
We're
actually
really
win.
doing
So
this. We're doing.
I just wanted to mention
Oh,
that, since we did a lot
okay.
of
Whoa,
stretching and
whoa. Since you being a responsible journalist, I think it's just as important to point out: A, these are the games that's being played this week. B, don't get mad because I chose the Eagles over the Commanders, and that's your team, right? And then the
yeah.
facts are just the facts. Like at the end of the day, it comes down to Arabia, whether you're biased or not. Do the teams that you're choosing to win have an honest opportunity to do so?
It's true.
My team
Yeah.
just happened to be that way this week. Is what it
I
is.
can't be mad because I agree with you on the Eagles, but the other ones, I don't know. We'll see. We're definitely going to circle back next week. Next
Did
one
you
is,
give did you give yours between Carolina
yeah, I
and the
said
Bucks?
Panthers.
You said okay, all right. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
I
make
said
sure they
Panthers.
heard that, so when we come back and we do this next week, they understand who stood where. But go, I'm sorry, go.
Okay.
You go.
All right, yes. So we have Jets Saints next. It's not often that I
Whew.
that I have this feeling about an NFL game that I wouldn't really watch. Like, as someone who actually loves football, I would watch Pee Wee to the professionals. I love UFL games, AFL,
Tough,
but like I don't feel great about
tough,
this Jets Saints game.
tough.
Um, I don't know. What do you think, Coach George?
Listen, all right. Let me be honest, because I respect every NFL player that plays. Right, I respect
Yeah.
y'all. I want y'all to know that I have the utmost respect for what y'all do, what you got to put your bodies through for you to be able to do what you do, and the mindset that you have to be able to do it, whether you're winning or you're losing. But we're looking at two teams that have just been losing, week in and week out. So it's, what do you find the silver lining in, right?
Yeah.
So again, both teams are being evaluated as to whether this is the right coaching staff, these are the right players, this is the right management, administration, all that. So they're going to play as hard as they possibly can play. That being said, I got the type of TV where you can put four games on at once.
Hmm.
If I'm going to watch him, it's going to be on my four shot, right? But I'm not going to say, okay, let me just watch, this game by itself because of, who's playing, what records are, all that. That being said, it makes it really difficult to figure out who's going to win.
Yeah.
Like, what do you lean on? Jets, what do you lean on? What do you honestly lean on if you're thinking the Jets might win? If you're the Saints, what do you really lean on? You can't. You
Yeah.
you can't, right? So this is a toss up for me. If it's possible, Arabia, do I have to choose? Do I have to
No.
give you?
No. No.
Okay.
I'm just gonna put both teams to signify like toss up.
Okay, boom. It's our first toss up too, right? It's our first toss
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
It's a toss up for me. It really is. I just don't have enough information about both teams. Correction. The teams haven't given me enough information about themselves to
Yeah.
figure out who could definitively win versus the other. It's a toss up.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with everything that you just said. And one thing that you said that I wanted to piggyback on was coaching. And I kind of wanted to mention this when it came to the Panthers, but a couple years ago when Dave Canales came over as the head coach, and I was just excited to see what he was going to do with Bryce Young, given what he did with Russell Wilson in Seattle and then what he did with Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay. I was like, oh, quarterback whisperer. I think he's really going to be able to coach up Bryce Young. And I think we're kind of seeing like a slow ripple effect of that as they're able to build around Bryce Young, and as that defense gets better, and as the run game is able to help him out in situations with Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, who came over from Dallas. But I think the same thing when it comes to the Jets and the Saints with Kellen Moore, who some people are asking better coordinator than head coach, and just seeing what Kellen Moore can have for this Saints team. And then also Aaron Glenn and the struggles that he's had. But, Woody Johnson has really backed him and being like, no, he's not going anywhere. But just young coaches in the NFL right now trying to potentially play for their jobs, because it's a very interesting stat that says so many of these head coaches, especially of like high, they have quarterbacks that are drafted in the first round, high first round, are being fired. And we see the quarterback position being so closely tied to head coaching positions that it seems like if quarterback play is down, head coaches' jobs are like really in jeopardy and they're on the hot seat. And not to necessarily say that's the case for the Saints or for the Jets, because right now the Jets are going with Tyrod Taylor. I mean, the Justin Fields experiment just did not work. And the Saints quarterback situation is absolutely abysmal. I'm going to go Saints only because I want to choose someone. But like you said, it's 1,000% a toss-up. And it's a toss-up for a really bad reason. It's not a Rams Seahawks toss-up to where both of these teams are capable of a lot. It's a Jets Saints toss-up to where like neither one of these teams I think even knows who they are, and they haven't really established themselves in an identity. So I'm gonna go Saints, but ultimately
Okay. I can't stick with the toss-up then. I can't do it. And I can't because of a point that you brought up. So really, really good work.
Thanks.
Let's go to coaching. I'm going to choose the Jets based on what I feel like Aaron Glenn brings to the table versus what Kellen Moore does not, right? Which is a strong personality. So I have to think that AG is going to do a much better job of building his head coach, getting his head coach feet on the ground. And this is one of those games. Late in the season, team doesn't really have anything to play for. Him being a former player, being the type of former player he was, the type of coach that he is and has been, over the last few years, getting his opportunity with this. I can see him rallying the guys from a understanding of, listen, I've been there before. And I know I'm reaching, right? But at the same time, I'm just saying I don't want to stick with the toss-up. So I'm going to go with the Jets based on what I think AG could possibly do with his guys deep down the stretch, knowing that they're not playing for anything.
I think we have a really interesting and cool mix of games that we agree on and games that we don't agree on. So things will be interesting for next week. Next game is Bills Browns. I'm going Bills, but I'm still rooting.
Okay.
I'm
Shout out for
going
giving
Bills.
Shador's props even though you're not choosing.
Oh yeah.
My man.
Yeah. That's called this when players are doing this, like you said, that's called influence. That's called culture. This is called branding. Okay. So when I do this, you already know who I'm talking about. You don't even have to say the name, just the gesture.
Just throw it up. That's all you gotta do.
The Bills are number 6 in the AFC right now, number 2 in the AFC East. A really good win against the Patriots, who are number 1 right now in the AFC East. Browns defensively, obviously, can be dominant and can give Josh Allen and this offense a run for their money. But I think the Browns offensively are still trying to figure some things out. And the Bills are really fighting for something. The Chiefs have cleared out. The Chiefs are eliminated from the playoffs. The Bills are recently a team who can make deep playoff runs. And I think they're really going to try to take advantage of this Patrick Mahomes-less playoffs and try to take advantage of the path being clear in a way that it hasn't been for them in recent years. So I got to go Bills, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think when you, again, looking at a completely different set of circumstances with a team that does have something to play for in the Bills, but also playing against, a team that has, a guy on the other side that's not going to allow his team to lose, that makes the game interesting. But again, I just think the Bills have more than what the Cleveland Browns have. So with that being said, now, I will say this. I've been a bit disappointed with the Bills because they're not as consistent as I feel like they should be with the talent that they have, coaching staff they have. Understand they've been knocking on the door for the last, few years. And on top of it, with the Chiefs being completely out of it, they should be the team that's rising to the top of that conference. But we'll see, right? This is a game where they have to go out and prove they're ready to take those next steps. So with that, I'm going to choose them because I understand they have a whole lot more from a deep playoff run ideology on the line. So I'm going to go Bills.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, speaking of the Chiefs, is Chiefs-Titans. I'm going to go Chiefs. Both of these teams eliminated. Not a game that I'm particularly interested in. Patrick Mahomes is unfortunately out due to injury. Kind of a lot going on with the Chiefs right now. We're going to see what they do in the offseason. If they, the question is a retool or a rebrand. We also have Jason Kelce mentioning retirement as far as Travis Kelce is concerned. Like, basically, Jason Kelce was like, look, Trav, take a little bit of time, enjoy these last 3 weeks and enjoy these last 3 games, really take it all in, and in the off season, step away slightly just to see how it feels, and then based on that you'll know how you feel. And just mentioning retirement and Travis Kelce kind of slowing down over the last few years. But anyway, I'm gonna go Chiefs. Neither one of these teams is necessarily fighting for anything. Cam Ward, we saw some really cool things from him in their game against the Browns. Really cool to see Cam Ward and Shador be able to play against each other. But I'm going Chiefs. What do you think?
You know what? Just for the sake of the show, I'm going to go opposite and go Titans. But again, it's one of those games where, like, now that Patrick Mahomes isn't playing, I don't necessarily know if the Chiefs are really looking at the rest of this year like, let's go out and play for pride. They're not used to doing that. They're used to gearing up to get ready for playoffs and deep playoff runs and Super Bowls. I mean, that's just what it is. So there's a lot of disappointment in that locker room. That being said, they're professionals, but I think the Titans have an opportunity to get with a team like this in the Chiefs and, really hit them in areas where they're weak right now. So I got to pull for the Titans just for the sake of being opposite of you.
I understand, and look, I was this close from choosing the Titans anyway. I don't think it's a bad choice, even if it is just to counter me. But I will say I thought it was. I always think it's interesting when players and coaches find things out in press conferences. So when media is there, they ask them questions, and we saw that happen with Chris Jones last game when the Chiefs were officially eliminated from the playoffs, and a member of the media asked him a question or mentioned elimination, and he was like, so are we eliminated from the playoffs? And it's one of those things that I think players should have, or I'll ask you, do you think players should have in the back of their minds exactly what they're fighting for going into a game? Because to ask that question means that he wasn't necessarily aware of that before the game and during the game. And if you know that you're fighting for, like, this game is do or die, in or out, I think that's a good motivator to let your guys know what you're playing for. But what do you think?
Yeah, listen, it was my 6th year in the league before I ever heard a coach lay out exactly what the season looked like for us. I had became a free agent, went to Tampa Bay. Coach Tony Dungy was, first of all, the best coach I've ever played for in my entire life. So I want to put that out there. But the great job that made him Tony is he always kept you informed. So I can remember us being in the locker room, him putting up the schedule, showing our wins and losses, saying he would break the season down in quarters. That's when it was a 16 game regular season. And he would break it down in quarters, and he would say, okay, at that year, I came like halfway within the year. They had lost the first quarter. They were beginning to win the second quarter, and he was basically playing it out. Listen, if we can win this many games, this could put us either in the wild card, the playoffs. This could make us divisional champions, and obviously, if we win that, we can go all the way to the championship game, possibly the Super Bowl. As a 6-year player, that was the first time I ever heard a coach speak so clearly about where we were. He always kept us informed. I think that's really important for your team. Now, the opposite part of it, too, is what do we say about the Chiefs? They are used to playing to get in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Chris Jones has been a player that's always been used to playing in Super Bowls. What that means, he's not paying attention to the microcosms of what's happening from week to week. He's just playing. But it's a different year, different record, different outcome, different experience. Yeah. So that being said, I think it can go either way, but the better coaches understand, keep your players informed. That gives them a better opportunity to stay engaged.
I was so impressed with the Chiefs coaching staff that year. What was it, 2023, a couple years ago when they played the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Going into that game, I predicted a tie. And it was because, oh my goodness, the X's and O's just had them so evenly matched on the field, coaching. Like the way that the 49ers had been playing that year, they were really dominant offensively, defensively. I mean, the CMC was doing his thing, and then Debo Samuel was having a good year, and Brandon Ayuk, and the defense was very. So I'm like, no, this really could be a tie. Like, it was just an amazing matchup, and then I think the NFL felt the same way because like a few weeks before the Super Bowl, the NFL came out with like clear, specific overtime Super Bowl rules. And I looked at that and I was like, I think the NFL also thinks this is going to be a really good game, really good tie. So with that being said, after the Super Bowl, 49ers players came out and was like, we didn't know that there were even overtime rule changes. Like, we didn't even know. And Chiefs players were like, oh no, we practiced them. Not only did we know, we practiced them. NFL players are so deeply involved in plays and having their bodies right and their minds right. They can't know and be proactive about everything. That's why you have a front office. That's why you have 100,000 coaches. Like, so it's a lot of guys to keep track of and a lot of things to keep track of. So I say, I don't put this on Chris Jones. I put it on the Chiefs coaching staff and the Chiefs like administration for not putting the guys in position to understand what they're fighting for and even give them mentally more of a fighting chance going into last game. I know we kind of went off on a rant there, but I think there is a lot to be said about coaches keeping their guys prepared and putting them in positions to succeed week after week. Next is Jaguars Broncos. Are the Jaguars real? Here's what I'll say about that. I think Jacoby Myers coming over from the Raiders to the Jaguars was exactly what I thought Rashid Shaheed going over to the Seahawks from the Saints was going to be, which is like, oh, he makes Trevor Lawrence much better. Like, when you already have a Brian Thomas Jr., and unfortunately, the Jaguars have a Ferrari that's parked in the garage. That is Travis Hunter. But that's another exciting receiver room when everyone is healthy with Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter and Jacoby Myers. They just extended Jacoby Myers and gave him money. They're like, no, we need you. They made a midseason trade for Jacoby Myers and was like, nah, lock him up. Let's give him some money. So really exciting to see what this offense looks like now with that new addition. But the Broncos, Winbo, Knicks, Clicks are real contenders. I'm going to have to go Broncos, but both of these teams still have a lot to prove rolling into the end of the season. But I'm going to go Broncos. What do you think?
Yeah, so you opened this up by asking, are the Jaguars for real? And we're going to find out because guess what? The Broncos are for real.
Yeah.
They are for real. You know, me being right here in the Denver area, obviously I get the opportunity to, see them up close and personal. And they are that team in the AFC that nobody's really talking about, but they have to pay attention to because they're trying to figure out early on whether the Broncos were for real. Well, if you look at how they win situational football better than any other team in the NFL right now. Right? So what wins playoff games? Situational football, right? Understanding what rules and regulations are. Peyton does a really good job of making sure that the guys on that team, you got to understand, he also has head coaches coordinating for him as well, right? So with that being said, you got a lot of brain talent on that team that's helping that team be as good as they are. Now you take that and you couple it with the talent that they've got both on offense and defense, along with the scheme. I don't really see a lot of people coming to Denver and winning. And here's the other thing they can do really well, which is win on the road, right? And win on the road consistently. That's a Super Bowl contending team when you can do that. The Jaguars, yes, they've won some games that we didn't think they would win. They've really kept their consistency throughout the season, and they're going the right direction. But this is one of those prove-it games. Yeah. That being said, I'm still going Denver.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is a great opportunity for the Jaguars to show who they are and show up and prove like we are the real deal. So this is definitely a prove-it game for the Jaguars. I think it should be a good one regardless. Next, we have Falcons Cardinals.
Again. The four string.
Yeah, this is going on the lower right corner of the television.
Right. Left bottom.
Yeah, so there's some question marks. Not really a hot seat, but question marks with Jonathan Gannon. This is the Cardinals' third losing season in a row. They went 1-11 in the last 12 games. Just some from unfortunate things happening in Arizona right now. Kyler Murray, of course, is benched. I'm not sure what's going to happen in his future, but Falcons also struggling kind of at the quarterback position, and they have a new defensive coordinator that I was really excited for, but things just haven't really worked out for them. I don't know. Toss up. This is gonna be. I'm taking a toss up. I know you did a toss up, but then you took it back and went Jets because of Aaron Glenn. But I'm gonna use this one as my toss up. What do you think?
Yeah. Listen, I can't find a reason. I tried to go coaching staff. I tried to go special teams. I tried to go home field advantage. And again, we already talked about this being one of those games that's going to be on the fourth screen. The part of the screen that you pay attention to the least is the bottom left, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to be on the bottom left. And again, I'm going to use my toss-up here. I'm glad I took it away from the Jets. I'm going to use my toss-up here. We'll see.
Okay, we're on the same page as far as that goes. 4 more games left. Raiders, Texans. Texans. Defensively, this is where their identity lies. And offensively, if they start to really click and pick up, then again, they can be a formidable team. Raiders have struggled in every way, shape, and form. I hate to see Mad Max on a team where we will not see him in the playoffs. At least this year, we haven't seen him. I want to see Mad Max play at a very high level. I want to see Max Crosby in the Super Bowl. I want to see him play postseason. I don't want to see him play just for 16 games. I want to see him play beyond 17 weeks of NFL football, but we're not going to see that this game. I'm going Texans, just dominant defensively, and then offensively, it kind of leaves them to be able to do whatever they want in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, they play excellent defense. They do, and they have excellent defensive players playing excellent defense with a defensive-minded head coach. And you look at the Raiders, again, completely inconsistent at the most important positions. Love Max, right? Definitely want to see him have an opportunity to play deep in the playoffs so he can showcase that talent worldwide. But he's just not enough. He's just not enough. Who are they on offense, right? We don't know. So with that being said, got to go Texans because I just think they got a whole lot more up front they can work with.
Yeah, they definitely do. And Malcolm Kuntz, who plays opposite Mad Max, is due to be a free agent in March. So it'll be really interesting to see what the Raiders do with him and also what the Raiders do in the draft and in the offseason because I would say they need a quarterback. I was excited about Geno Smith and Pete Carroll in Las Vegas and having Ashton Genty have a run game to complement. And then they have a 6'5" receiver who ran like a 4.3 40 or something with Dante Thornton Jr. And there's a lot of things on paper that I was extremely excited about, but just didn't really translate this season. So definitely going Texans. Next is Texans. Now we're going Steelers, Lions, both teams. So the Ravens are trying to knock on the door of the AFC North. The Steelers are trying to keep them at bay and make sure that they make the playoffs. The Lions are right outside the playoffs, trying to compete with the in the NFC North to make it. I'm going Lions. The Steelers have shown inconsistency and to some degree defensively, so have the Lions. But I got to go Lions this game. It's in Detroit. What do you think?
You know what? I'm gonna pull the upset and go Steelers. I'm gonna go Steelers because of again. I think it's hard to say that one side is better than the other in a game like this because they have two very strong-willed coaching staffs who understand how to win tight game footballs. I love games like this. This will be a very strategical matchup between coaches who understand who the other coach is. So with that being said, the preparation for it is a whole lot different. The Steelers need to go in and win this road game if they're going to have any type of opportunity to close out like they want to. That being said, I'm going to go Tomlin over Dan Campbell. 100%. I just want to see Steelers win this game.
I like that take. I really do, and it's not something that I think I put enough consideration into. I'm gonna stay Lions, but I think that's a really good point. And it'll make this game really interesting. Next is Patriots Ravens Sunday Night Football. Speaking of the Ravens, man, the Patriots have looked good, but will they look good against? Okay, so actually, I was gonna say, will they look good against better teams? But are the Ravens a better team? Once again, inconsistent. Defensively, things have picked up for them as the season has progressed. Lamar Jackson is back. Ravens are trying to fight for this position. What do you think?
I'm going Patriots, and I'm gonna tell you why. They look, and this is no surprise, but they look like the Patriots when Tom Brady started being Tom Brady, and we were asking, were they a for real team? Because they didn't win pretty, but they would win.
Mm,
Who's their head coach? Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel.
Who did Mike Vrabel play under? Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Who does that team look like? A Bill Belichick / Mike Vrabel football team. They
Yeah.
play sound defense. They do very well on special teams. They don't make mistakes there. And they run an offense that's very, very balanced. So with that being said, they're going to take that mentality, that ideology into a Ravens game that I really feel like they're still trying to figure out who and what they are, and are they just a Lamar Jackson led Ravens football team. The thing I love about the Patriots, they've been winning quietly, but they've been winning, and they've been doing it rather consistently. I'm going Patriots all day.
I think they have, and I haven't checked recently, but I think Vegas has Drake May as one of the favorites right now for MVP. I think it's Matthew Stafford, which I think his stock kind of went down a bit after last night's game, which I don't think is super fair. But I think it's like a Matthew Stafford, Drake May sort of race right now. I'm sure Bo Nix is somewhere in the mix. But you just gave really great football reasons why the Patriots will win. I'm going to go more casual fan emotional reasons why I think the Ravens will win. And
Okay.
to be completely fair, this is all bias. So this is not Arabia the
Okay.
analyst.
Okay.
This is just
Okay.
Arabia the fan of Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
And I've been very clear that like Lamar Jackson really might be my favorite player in the NFL. I love watching him play, just his character off the field, the way that he handles adversity, and no matter what's thrown at him, he just seems to be like a stand-up guy. I really admire him as a person and as a football player. So because I want to see Lamar Jackson win, I'm gonna go with the Ravens. But again, these aren't football reasons. It's just because I want the Ravens to win. I've been clear
That's
that
fair.
I think the Steelers will end up winning the division, given the Steelers schedule to close out the season, and also the Ravens. I don't really believe in the Ravens defensively, especially given that weird Bengals game where it was a shutout, but the Bengals had the ball for 40 minutes, which means that the Ravens defense couldn't get off the field. So just a lot of inconsistencies there, but I'm going to go Ravens only because I love Lamar Jackson. And so that's my casual football take of the day. Next we have 49ers Colts Monday Night Football. What do you think about Phillip Rivers, first of all?
Listen, NC State in the house, right? So I got to get that up. You know what, man? Phil surprised the heck out of me because I was hard on him. I said, there's no way that a man can come off the couch and have make any type of significant difference in the NFL, and he made a significant difference for that team, put him in position to win the football game, right? Didn't lose the game for him until the interception until the very end, right? That being said, he's a pro's pro though. He's always prepared,
Yeah.
But even with that being said, can he do it 2 weeks in a row? Well, guess what? He's going to have an opportunity to do that. So what do I think of him? NC State's finest, right? Competitor. Got a dog mentality. But the man is 44 years old. He's 44 years old. And I don't know if he's Tom Brady 44. He's
Yeah.
44, right?
Yeah.
Those are two different types of 44. So we going to see.
Yes, I think Tom Brady was like Giselle Bunsen 44, but Phillip Rivers is 10 kids 44.
You know what I'm
Like
saying?
he's
10
like
kids, grandkids 44,
yes, exactly. So two different 44s for sure. But what I'll say is that at 44, he came in. If you consider what the Seahawks have done all season, and then take a closer look at what they did against the Rams last night, like they are a really good team. So for Phillip Rivers to come in against a Seahawks team and keep the Colts at least competitive throughout the game is super impressive. Now, will they try to lean more on a run game and have that Shane Steichen have the defense ready to alleviate some pressure from the offense? I think so. But like, how could I count out the 49ers? One word that stands out to me when it comes to San Francisco is like perseverance. And through injury and through all of this, they still stack wins and are trying to compete and competing. They are competing in the NFC West. I think the Shanahans will have this team ready for anything. And I think ultimately the Colts will have started the season, this Cinderella story, super exciting for Daniel Jones' second chance at another team after he went to the Vikings practice squad, but then like end up being like, you still have a little ways to go. So I'm going to go 49ers because they know how to close out games and they're competing in this division that's really good. Who are you going with?
Niners, the same reasons.
Yeah.
Just much more
Yeah.
balance on their side of the ball.
Yeah. All right. Our picks are in. Locked in. I like this. We're definitely going to circle back next week to see how we did. Accountability. I don't know when you're available for me. You're just so busy, Coach George. I mean, it's just hard to really pin you down and get you on the show. Oh my
we're not even going to do that. We're not going to do that. What we are going to do, though, is we're going to figure it out, it being a holiday week and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But listen, whenever you feel like, giving the little people a hand up, I'm available when you feel like, let me let this peasant in my kingdom. Listen, we're grateful. We're grateful.
Yeah, whatever. So now at this point, we were supposed to talk about the AYF National Championship, but our Week 16 predictions actually were so fun and took so long because we did such thorough analysis of each game that I don't think we have the time this episode to go through the AYF Championship, which really might be God telling me, Arabia, chill out. Because when I say, not I was out for blood, but I was really call some people out and let stuff be known. Like I like, it's funny because Maurice Claret asked me when it came to the Michigan situation. No. So the whole Michigan Coach Moore thing happened, and then recently Ohio, not Ohio State, but Ohio came out and said that their coach is kind of going through their things. So in the group chat that has like me and Maurice and Cam and Nick and Stat, like that, it is what it is group chat. So Maurice post the story about Ohio and was like, Arabia, are you going to talk about this? And I was like, no, I don't feel the need. He was like, well, if you do, are we getting Fox 5 Arabia or are we getting It Is What It Is Arabia? Because I guess those are two different people.
Yo, there are two different. There are three different people. There are three different people. Let me tell you when I know you want to go in on somebody. Okay. All right. People that watch this show, tell me if this is Arabia or not when she want to go off on somebody. First of all, she don't look at the camera. Right? It's like she looking at the person that she going off on over there, like she got him on a dartboard or something, and she just be like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, is she gonna come back to the camera? No, she's not coming back to the camera. And hold on, then you do this, then you start doing this, because I'm telling you, this and that and that. So with that being said, right? It is the Lord above the reason why we are not talking about this AYL championship, because we had in our pre-show, you was looking this way. You even did one of these, and I was like, I don't know how this gonna go.
Yeah, I definitely asked Coach George for his opinion. I'm like, should I really air it out or should I keep it cute? And then Coach George was like, keep it PG. So, it ain't nothing but God that we got Coach George on today on Friday and that we ran out of time because of our thorough, amazing football analysis of Week 16. So, I do still want to talk AYF recap, but we're going to take a few days, enjoy the family, enjoy the holidays, woosah, take time and figure out a more refined approach to figure out how to talk about the AYF championship tournament. Because
that is such that, you know what, that's responsible growth. Media what you call it, that's responsible media cashing right there. I'm proud of you, Arabia. I'm proud of you.
It happened on accident, but thank you. I appreciate it. We're gonna say that it's growth. Yes. Well, I guess all the time that we have for today. Remember, use the Coach George link in the description box below for up to 50%, up to 60% off Fanatics. Holiday season is around the corner. Christmas is 6 days away. So get yourself some stuff now for yourself or for the family for Christmas. Get the gifts from out of the store and under the tree. The link will be available until it expires, I think, the 21st of December. But code ELF, ELF, and the Coach George in the description box. That's all the time that we have for today. Enjoy the holidays, and we'll see you sometime soon.